I'm Geno Roefaro, host of the Keys Success series. We're here at Polaroid Fotobar, just one of Warren Struhl's 30 companies. We have the exclusive opportunity to interview Warren today and learn how he built his empire. From PaperDirect to Popcorn, Indiana, to now his newest venture, Polaroid Fotobar. Let's get started. Warren, thanks a lot for being here today.
My pleasure.
So, Warren, awesome store. How'd you come up with this idea?
So I spent, my career trying to look at opportunities that I think are looked at differently than most other people. And it's always around solving a solution of some sort. And I thought that there was a problem. And I thought maybe I had a solution. So about 4 years ago, I started asking everybody to show me on their new device called a smartphone, their favorite picture. So I would ask everyone that I would come in contact with. And when they picked up their smartphone and they scrolled like this, they said, "That's my favorite picture." And I said, "That's an awesome picture." Even if it wasn't, by the way.
All right.
I said, "That's an awesome picture." I said, "Let me ask you a question. Does that picture live on a wall, a desk, or a shelf?" And the answer was incredible. It wasn't yes, it wasn't no. They got angry, they got mad, they got sad that they hadn't done anything with that picture. And I realized there was an opportunity to make them happier. And I asked them the question, I said, if there was the first really cool physical destination that you can walk in and wirelessly take that picture and make something really cool out of it for your wall, desk, or shelf, would you go? And the reaction was just wild. And that's when I started my endeavor to create Polaroid Fotobar, which was originally called the Fotobar. A year and a half later, partnered with Polaroid to become the Polaroid Fotobar.
Nice. Well, you're right. I mean, I have hundreds of photos, probably thousands of photos on my phone. And you're right. What do you do with them, right? Pictures of your girlfriend, your friends. So I think it's, I like how you started it. You know, it's you solving a major need. It's obviously a large opportunity here. How did you end up doing a deal with Polaroid?
So I was working on the concept and started to develop from ground zero, literally, the technology, the product, the concept, the store design, the machines, because they weren't available at the time. And as I was going through the process, about a year into it, I realized that even though the word Fotobar can be a brand that I can create, was there another brand out there that I can collaborate with?
Sure.
And there was no other brand that I wanted to collaborate with, quite frankly, than Polaroid. It's been an iconic brand for 75 years. Polaroid cameras were back in a big way 3 years ago. We couldn't even make them fast enough. And old and young, people knew about the brand Polaroid. And I went to Polaroid and I said, "Here's my idea. Here's my game plan. Would you want to partner?" And we became, we jumped in bed together and we started the first test of a store, which we're sitting in right now about 2 years ago, called the Polaroid Fotobar.
That's awesome. How did you convince Polaroid to allow you to use their name?
Well, I think I showed them a real detail plan. Okay. They've seen that I've been around the block a few times and have really tried to delve into industries that were not necessarily going like this. And the photo industry, despite picture taking going like this, picture making was actually on a decline. And I said, I have a solution for that. I know how to fix that. And I convinced them that it was a good idea. And they said, go do it.
So you came in with a plan, you have a track record, obviously a team. How about people that are just starting off, don't have necessarily the background? What do you think some advice to them is to start getting their first deal going?
Well, I think the first thing I always tell folks that are looking to start their first business, you really got to obsess over the idea. There's a thing called Google. I'm sure you've heard of it. Everything's available on Google to learn about your idea. Has it been done before? Who succeeded? Who has failed? Or has it not been done? And really putting together a very crisp, well thought out 10-page PowerPoint, one-page document that summarizes what you want to do. Right. And I like to tell people, start talking to people.
Sure.
Some people think you should be really undercover, not talk to anybody. I don't believe in that.
Right, I agree.
Share your idea with people that you know, people that you don't know, and say, what do you really think of this? And just, if you don't like it, please tell me after 30 seconds. And I think if you do that, you'll learn pretty quickly whether your idea has some legs or not.
Yeah. you can improve it, sharpen it, getting the
Absolutely.
feedback.
And got to listen to the feedback.
So, where do you see Polaroid Fotobar going from here?
Well, we've been doing this now, as I said, for 4 years in development. The first store opened 2 years ago in this location. And as I like to say, it's where I wanted to get it all wrong. Because nobody ever created something like this. I wanted it to be in my backyard of both my office and home, and so we can tinker.
Right.
So we started the concept, and what we knew day one is people loved it. People just loved it. And then from there, we had to hone in on what the best financial model is. And interestingly, we're sitting in a 2,000 square foot location, and I just opened up 7 new locations in the last 7 weeks that are 300 square feet.
So totally new model.
Totally new model. We are rolling out what we call micro retail units, malls, airports eventually, and some other strategic locations. 300 square feet, because after all the studies and all the work that we did the last 2 years, we realized we have a great idea, but how can you shrink it down so it's really scalable?
Right.
We're not in this business just open a few. We think we're positioned today to open up 1,000 pretty quickly because of this new model.
So that's a great lesson right there, is you have a plan, you execute it, be ready to fail, be ready to learn from that, and also be ready to pivot, right? So you started creating the new model, which is very important.
Right. No business that I've ever seen, and I've done this 30 times as an investor or a founder, has ever finished up the way they thought when they started. It just doesn't happen. It either closes, or it pivots. And you can't believe your own BS. You really, really have to look and see what's working and what's not, and be able to change.
Let's talk a little bit about how you got started in business. This is you obviously had a very successful career. Let's kind of go back to the beginning, because sometimes it's hard for entrepreneurs to understand. How do you get from zero to owning or being involved with 30 different companies?
Sure.
So take us back.
So I went to Tulane University for college. I was a proud sociology major. And actually I took a couple classes in simplex and complex organizations that taught me a lot about organizations and how they started, how they ran, etc. But finishing college, I worked for a very large real estate company for 5 years in Chicago called J&B Realty, which was the iconic real estate company at the time. I was in their marketing group. And basically, in 1989, I had an idea. And similar to where I am today, I had this idea about Polaroid. I had an idea that I saw people were adopting a new machine, new technology called the laser printer. And people were buying them for $10,000, $11,000, $12,000. Wow. Now you can buy them in Staples for $400 or $300. But no one really knew what to put in the laser printer tray. They would just simply steal some paper out of their copier machine and put it in their laser, and it didn't look all that great. So I had this aha moment, because I was in the same position, that I was making these documents now on my screen, new desktop publishing software, but it didn't look all that great. So long story short, I had a problem.
Right.
And I accessed some really cool paper from actually my brother, who was in a side business he owned. And I said, how do I get samples of really cool paper? It was neon, it was parchment, etc. And I tried it out, and it was awesome. And I realized that I fulfilled my need, and I became actually famous in my presentations that I made every day for my probably consistently crummy presentations, but great paper. And everybody was talking about my paper. So did a lot of research and realized that a lot of people out there probably had the same issue. And I quit my job, and I went to some friends and family in 1989 and raised $1.1 million, about 35 individual investors, which was like $2 billion today.
Right. That was before you started the company?
This was before I started the company.
Wow.
And I had a business plan. And I was fortunate to have believers. And really took that company in 4 years, built about a $100 million business.
Wow.
Gave my investors close to 50 times their money. And of course, it's great to have your first be a big win, because then it paves the way. And that's how it started. But like anybody starting today, you got to believe in what you're doing, present a plan, and if you need capital, go present it, appropriately.
Cool. And then you had a big exit, right?
We had a big exit in '93, and then from then I've invested in and spawned a whole bunch of other companies.
Did you have any partners when you first started up, or were you by yourself?
I was with my brother.
Okay.
My brother and I were partners, and then we took on about 35 investors at the time.
Starting a company from nothing to doing $100 million in sales, I mean, there's got to be some major lessons that you learned from that and have carried on through some of your other businesses. Can you just share a few of those with us?
Yeah, I think, look, it's not easy to do that, right? From 0 to 100 with 1.1 million of capital. I think what we did so smartly is we saw this germ of an idea really start to take off, and we just focused on making sure that nobody woke up in the paper industry and understood what we were doing before it was too late and before we had actually 1 million customers in 4 years. And at the end of the day, we just, we doubled down and tripled down on making sure that we didn't care about profits for the first 3 years. We just took everything we were doing and put it back in.
To make a quality product.
To make a quality product, continuously building a bigger database of customers. In the 4th year, we made a ton of money. And that's when somebody called us and said, we want to buy it.
Awesome. So just to clarify, you guys actually created what's now is kind of like the ream of paper, essentially, just a colored paper to go into your printer?
Yeah, we actually, a ream is 500 sheets. We actually brought it down to 100 sheets, and we invented different kind of paper styles.
Okay.
Pre-printed or pre-decorated, pre-scored, pre-folded, whatever it may be, in a box, and sold them in a beautiful box, 100 sheets, and we sold them all over the world. And today, actually, the business is still around. It's probably about a $50 million business, but still is making, from what I understand, a fortune of money.
Awesome.
Owned by a multi-billion-dollar company, and it was a great story.
And I see a lot of similarities, here being in the Polaroid Fotobar with, your initial company, of just allowing people to create their ideas. You're giving them new opportunities to share their ideas, share their vision. So clearly that stuck with you.
Yeah, it's actually weird. It's actually very similar. What we did back then was empower people to take that image off the screen. At the time, it was a PC, obviously, or sometimes a Mac, and make it really good looking on paper. What we're doing today is enabling you to take it off your smartphone and make it into something interesting. So it's very similar in a lot of ways, and didn't really think it through as maybe it was subliminal that I was thinking that, but it's very similar.
Cool. So you had a great exit. You started, was that essentially your first company that you started?
That was.
That's unbelievable, obviously. Your first company, you hit a home run. Clearly that's not going to happen for everybody, but it's very inspiring. So you had an exit, it was successful. What did you do from there?
I just, after the shock wore off, really looked around, started investing in some companies. And then a year later, actually, a few buddies and I saw a different need in the marketplace, and that it was the time when this word e-commerce was emerging. And it was actually pre-Amazon. And we started to buy up paper catalogs not in the paper business, but paper-based catalogs, and consolidated them, and ultimately with the vision of converting them into e-commerce powerhouses. And it was called Genesis Direct. It was the greatest company. It was the greatest failure of mine, the most proud failure of mine. I attribute most of it to timing. Jeff Bezos at Amazon was better at fundraising than I was. He was allowed to lose billions of dollars. I wasn't, for some reason. And ultimately, we went out of business in the late 90s. And when I look back at that, if we were able to hold on, it would have just been incredible. But the financing wasn't there to see our vision through. And after that business, other things that I've been involved with, span from restaurants to tennis clubs to other things. But I guess shortly after that, I had this other idea, which you mentioned earlier, realized that there was no upscale, just like there was no upscale cool paper, there was no upscale great tasting popcorn. And my obsession with Howard Schultz and creating what he created with, creating an upscale cup of coffee, I wanted to do it in the popcorn business. And I started Popcorn Indiana shortly thereafter.
That's excellent. So talking about other people that have inspired you, what are some of your mentors that you've kind of took from to help create some of your ideas?
Well, I think that Steve Jobs is the obvious first one that comes to mind. He just did it his way. I love how his path is all about simplicity, cleanliness, execution. I think we've taken a lot of what he created in what we're doing here. I think that Howard Schultz, who actually served me my first cup of coffee, literally when he had 100 stores, and I got to meet him. We were talking about an idea together, and I never, ever put coffee in my system. And he said, you have to have this thing called coffee, and I'm going to put some chocolate in it and some ice. And he served me my first iced grande, non-fat, no-whip mocha. And that was over 20 years ago. And today I never missed a day of that coffee. And it just changed my life, obviously changed a lot of others. So when I look at that, it's just fascinating to me.
So that was a really inspiring moment.
Really inspiring. And I guess the third one I always talk about is Tony Hsieh.
Okay.
Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos. What a dumb idea to sell shoes by mail. I mean, how are you going to do that? It's just ridiculous. And everybody laughed at him, including me. I think I actually had an opportunity to invest, and I said, that's just never going to work. And what he really did was, he wasn't selling shoes. As he says on every box today, his tagline is powered by service. It's all about service. And sold it to Amazon, I think, for about $1 billion a few years ago. And he also, is an inspiration to say, if people laugh at you, that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I actually got to meet Tony out in Las Vegas at his downtown project.
Awesome.
And he did share that story about how, many investors laughed at him, told him it was a stupid idea, told him it would never work, didn't make any sense, and he just pursued it anyways. And, talking about Tony Hsieh is, I read his book, and how do you, create raving fans for your customers? I mean, before this interview, I told a few people about this, and everyone in my office has been to Polaroid Fotobar. They love the experience. My girlfriend enjoys the popcorn. You have fans out there that are promoting your brand, promoting what you do. How do you create that raving fan base?
I think it's probably two things. One is you got to have a really good idea that people really want, right? I mean, you talk about popcorn Indiana kettle corn is just spectacular. You take a bite, you take some, even if you never had kettle corn, you don't know what it is, and you say, oh my God. And it's just an oh my God experience for most people. And we're fanatical about how we make popcorn Indiana, and that's how it's grown to be about a $100 million business this year from zero. Lots of zigs and zags along the way, but we were true to having the world's best popcorn. You can buy popcorn, Orville Redenbacher, and put it in your microwave, and you're not going to say, oh my God. You can buy ours, and you say, oh my God. I think that spawns a lot of excitement. And Polaroid Fotobar, we are crazy fanatical about customer service. We poll our customers every day electronically to see how they like us. We score extremely high on that scorecard, and as high as Apple, Southwest Airlines, Costco level. And it's a matter of, I'm always a believer that if you give excellence, people will tell somebody.
Sure. So that's really what I see as the trend so far, is that building the brand is really about building an excellent product, caring about the customers. Seems like that's the trend, is just focus on improving what you're doing, and it kind of grows itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of what I've done is I like to say, I often reinvent commodities. So I'm reinventing the 4x6 picture. People aren't buying 4x6s. It's just not cool anymore.
Right.
It bends. What am I going to do with it? We're reinventing that. We reinvented popcorn. We reinvented what people at home bought and enjoyed when watching TV. Not only did our company take off, but there's been a whole host of copycats the last few years, and is by far the fastest growing category in the many billion-dollar snack category.
How does it make you feel when you go into the stores and you see your brand and you see people eating it?
It's pretty cool. I was on a plane yesterday, actually, and a guy next to me was eating a bag of popcorn Indiana.
Pretty cool. Like, hey, you like that?
It's pretty cool. Yeah. Is that your favorite company? Is that your favorite brand? Is that your favorite popcorn?
Yeah.
I always ask that.
That's
and then I tell them.
Warren, tell us, how do you start Popcorn Indiana?
Great story. So I love popcorn, but I actually wasn't satisfied with the selection of popcorn. It was, all microwave. And did a little search and found that there was no popped popcorn, ready-to-go popcorn out there in the marketplace.
None.
There was really, you used to be able to buy for 99 cents a big bag that was at, Walmart, and it was horrible. So I started doing some work on what's out there in the popcorn business, because I thought it could be upscaled. I thought it could be made into some kind of premium brand. And again, my obsession with Howard Schultz and Starbucks, how he took a commodity and made it upscale. And did a little research and found there really wasn't much out there. And also knew from the start that popcorn was probably the most social food on the planet. Like you share popcorn.
Right.
You could be a stranger, you'll still stick your hands
Right.
in a bowl.
Dining room, watching a movie.
Everywhere. So I said, can I create the Starbucks of popcorn? That was the essence. Can I create popcorn places where you go, sit, hang out, have great different popcorns, some lemonade,
It's like a
and
Starbucks
conversation.
popcorn.
You got it. And I opened my first one up 13 years ago because that's what I do. From the idea, 120 days later, on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, I had a store. And we had chocolate popcorn, and we had caramel corn, we had kettle corn, and a bunch of others. And people loved it. We opened up a few more stores, and then one day someone walked into our store in Times Square, and they said, will you sell this kettle corn to us, to our stores? And I said, sure, we'll figure that out. He said, but we have 8,000 stores. We're Walgreens. And I said, whoa. That was a defining day in our business where we realized that the bigger opportunity for Popcorn Indiana was to be a wholesaler of great popcorn to places like Walgreens. And we pivoted. And even though some of our stores were doing great, it wasn't easy to continue to build out these stores. There was a lot of waste. There was a lot of build-out costs to make great popcorn in individual kitchens per locations. And long story short, we went into the wholesale business. And Walgreens was our first customer. And from there, we built a great big factory with equipment that nobody's ever used before. And we honed in on our best-selling product, which is kettle corn. Why kettle corn? A, because it was our best-selling product in our stores, but also when you go to a county fair in the Midwest somewhere, that's the longest line. It smells the best, it's the longest line, and it tastes the best. So we brought it to the consumer. And today, 2015, where we are now, we are in close to 100,000 stores, Walmart being our largest customer, to Whole Foods, to gas stations.
Yeah, I see it everywhere.
It's been
I see it all the time.
very interesting story. Hasn't been easy. Building a consumer product in America is daunting, but we made it through, and we're $100 million today.
Congratulations. It's a great story.
Thank you.
So how did you transition from the retail stores into the wholesale? Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
It was one of those days where we just sat around the table and we said, look, guys, what do you want to do? Like, are we going to go after this or this? And we knew we really couldn't do both. Mm-hmm. And we took a bet, and we basically said, we're going to focus on this path, which is the wholesale path. It's the biggest one. And we made hard decisions, and we closed down stores where leases came up. We shut them down, and only hyper-focused on building the best, in essence, kettle corn product on the planet. And again, it's about focus. We said that's what we're going to do, and our iconic red bag has become, famous.
Yeah. Did you bring in experts at that point to kind of help you of how to package it and how to position it, or did you really just work directly with Walgreens and?
No, I'm a pretty good brand marketer, so figured out how to make what I liked in a bag, the touch, the feel, the logo. We actually with the red bag, no one's probably ever done a monochrome bag that's one color like a red one, but it turned out to be famous today. Mm-hmm. In fact, people know the red bag more than they know the brand Popcorn Indiana. And we brought in really experts on the manufacturing side. I never built a popcorn factory before, and we have a few 100,000 square feet today that make popcorn 24 hours a day. Wow. And you obviously had to bring in experts to figure out how to pop the best popcorn that stays in the bag the freshest and is consistent with every single bite.
All right, so we're getting into the final segment of our show today where we ask some rapid fire questions. See how this goes. So Warren, tell us something no one knows about you.
Wow, I have a dog named Dougie. It was named after a restaurant that my family and I ate at before we moved to Florida 11 years ago.
Sweet. So what's inspired you to be successful?
Honestly, I love the challenge. I just love the challenge of coming up with an idea and seeing if I'm right or wrong, and I'm willing to be wrong. But I love getting up at the plate, swinging as hard as I can, and seeing how it works out.
What do you feel makes a great leader?
I think a great leader has to be confident in who they are and what they do and their conviction to their idea. And I think 2 is you just got to have the absolute best people around you, period, hard stop. And you got to listen to them, you got to collaborate, you got to understand that different perspectives are really important.
How do you attract great talent to work for you?
I think that if you have a good idea, it starts with that. People want to be involved with good ideas, good companies. I think that's the most important. And I think that I like to believe that I've created some nice work environments where people come in jeans and sneakers and dressed up, often the way they want, and starts with that. But also, open door policy. We in our company, we always have open door policy. Anybody at any level can come and say what they want to say.
Cool. So having a great product and creating an awesome culture.
Yep.
What's one of your greatest fears? How do you manage that?
Oh, my greatest fear, by doing this for a living the last 25 years, my fear is always not necessarily of failing, because I know that failing is inevitable when you start up companies, but my fear is that if you fail, that people are out of work. And that's a big burden.
Big responsibility.
Big responsibility. And again, I'm dealing with high stakes environments, and that keeps me up. That one thing keeps me up at night, that if this idea doesn't work, what happens?
Sure. How do you define success?
I think success ultimately, if you make $1 or more, I think ultimately you got to make money. I like to spend a lot of time on my charitable endeavors, and that's where I spend money. On the other hand, when I'm at work, I try my best to make money.
Sure.
I think ultimately success is making money, having fun making money, and having people around you that have grown to a different level, a different place where they were when they started.
What are some ways that you give back, and how does that play a role into your business life?
I probably work an extra few hours a day actually thinking about how I'm going to spend that extra money. Giving back, my family and I are fortunate to be able to give back over the years. We're big into education. We support an orphanage that we're very close with. There's a whole host of things that we're involved with over the years.
Does that motivate you to be even more successful?
Absolutely.
So, do you have any patterns or routines that you use on a daily or weekly basis to keep you consistent?
Well, the most important part of my day is Starbucks. So you'll see me at Starbucks between 7 and 7:15 every day. I just can't get away from that place. So I start with that, and I think that 12 o'clock hits, and my assistant, who's been with me for 23 years, who takes care of me incredibly well. Jan, my food's on my desk. I don't have to think about it. That's the next part of my routine. If you ask me what I had for lunch yesterday, I think I know, but I'm really not sure. It just arrives. And ultimately, I have hallway gatherings with the team on a consistent basis that are just spontaneous, that of course, collaborate in the hallway, are always great, but also have obviously consistent meetings in a real room with a big whiteboard.
What was your most satisfying moment in your business career?
I guess my first success was by far the most satisfying, I guess.
With PaperDirect?
Yeah, when we sold our business and we were able to give back both to our investors and we gave big checks to every single employee. We had about 500 employees. We gathered them in the parking lot. We announced that we sold our business, and everyone got a check. Just everyone got a check, just because that day people bought cars. People that worked in the warehouse bought cars with those checks. Some people put down payments on houses. We were able to fund college educations. That was a crazy moment for me.
Must have felt great.
It was before the internet was the internet, and you heard about all these crazy, exits. It was a really good day.
Well, where do you see yourself in 10 years from now?
Working. I see myself working. I promised myself that Polaroid Fotobar actually may be my last startup. I think this business has a lot of years ahead of it. We're the first in the market. Maybe it takes 5 years, maybe it takes a decade to conquer. But I think I have a good 10 years left to work as hard as I'm working.
Thanks, Warren, for the interview. To learn more, go to PolaroidFotobar.com and catch us next time at KeysToSuccess.org.